Now, I thought this would be as good a time as any to make this video. We're approaching the end of the international break. We've had about a week to digest everything that happened in the transfer window. So that's what I'm going to talk about. We're going to do a review of the transfer window as a whole. All right, then. The first thing I want to talk through is the players that we've brought in. So, as far as I'm aware, I don't think there's anyone else. We've brought in 5. So, Vitek on loan from Man United, Borges on loan from Middlesbrough, Randall on a free, not on a free, on 500k, sort of, I think it was a relegation sort of release clause from Plymouth. It wasn't free. Emil Rees for free as a free agent. I think we did really well to sign him, by the way. And Joe Lumley. We'll go through each player in, and then we'll talk about some of the other stuff in the window. So Vitek, I think, well, he's been sensational, hasn't he? Won the August Player of the Month. I wouldn't say he's necessarily saved us in games so far. I think we would have won the games without his massive saves, but some of the saves he's put in have been absolutely mega. Quick reaction saves. The guy's massive. He started off proceedings by saving a penalty against Valladolid as well. Yeah, he's great. I really like Vitek. I think he's possibly one of the best goalkeepers I've ever seen play for Bristol City. I think of Basso and Bentley, maybe, in terms of shot-stopping ability, that sort of lay a glove on Vitek, but I mean, he's been sensational, hasn't he? Neto Borges, who is obviously new. We haven't seen him play yet, and I've got some stats and data to talk about him in a second. So if you want to know a bit more about Neto Borges, stick around for that. Adam Randall, who's been, fantastic in our midfield, hasn't he? Gerhard Struber, I think, has learned not to sub him off for Max Bird now, which is good to see. And I'd actually argue that Randall, in that position, has had a better start to the season than Jason Knight has. That's how good he's been. I think that's pretty much the biggest compliment you can give him. Joe Lumley, there was a lot of noise on social media when we signed him, but honestly, if you're picking a second fiddle championship goalkeeper, how many good, really good goalkeepers are going to be happy to be a backup? I think we're getting what you probably expect from a second choice championship keeper from Lumley. A couple of games we've seen him in against MK Dons in Fulham. MK Dons, they kept a clean sheet, but I think on the ball and at times from crosses coming in, Lumley was a little bit suspect, and the same against Fulham. But he's brought in to be second choice. And then we have Emil Rees, who I think has been a real breath of fresh air up front. He offers, I think, everything you want from a striker in a Struber system. Runs in behind, runs the channels, got a good first touch, can hold the ball up, and he proved against Middlesbrough, he can score poachers' goals, and he's quite clinical in a 1v1 as well. So, really happy to have, to be honest, all 5 of these players at the football club. So Neto Borges then, he came from Middlesbrough on loan with mixed reviews, I'd say, from Middlesbrough fans. Some of them saying that he wasn't definitely not a world beater at left back, but at the same time, some of them were surprised to see him let go. He can play both left back, left centre back, and left wing back, where he played in the French league, I believe. All of these stats and data, by the way, are from Fevs. Fantastic resource for anything Bristol City, especially player sort of analytics. I'll leave a link to Fevs' X in the description. And what Fevs does, which in particular I find really useful, is producing these player vises. And what you get here is a list of sort of stats and data that I think is pretty much everything you need to know about an outfield player in terms of their defensive competencies, how they are on the ball, attacking wise, all the kind of stats and data that you'd get. You can look at this in detail, pause the video if you want to. But for me, the key thing about Neto Borges is he seems a slightly above average championship left-sided defender, which I think is probably an upgrade on Hayden Roberts. And going into the deadline, I've been saying this in all my videos, we needed 2 players to be signed, in my opinion. A striker, which we'll get onto, and a left-sided defender who could probably play left centre-back in cover for Rob Atkinson, and also left wing-back if we need, or left-back. And that's exactly what I think we have in Neto Borges. And considering he's a squad player as well, I don't think we needed to bring in a first-choice player necessarily for those positions. Considering Campering is probably our first choice left wing back, but he's injured at the moment. I think Neto Borges ticks the boxes quite well. I don't think you're going to get a top quality player with either the budget we have or the fact that they're probably going to be sort of second choice / a squad player. But happy to have him by the looks of these stats and excited to see him play. Now, we did have a striker or a forward in for a medical. I understand Jacob Brown, the day before the deadline day, the same day that Neto Borges was signed, I understand Jacob Brown from Luton was in for a medical. That's pretty widely reported on Twitter from some sources I'd say are well connected with the club. It didn't come off. I don't exactly know why. Maybe he failed a medical. Maybe it was some other things that fell through. But the club were definitely in for a striker. But I think there are a few things holding it up, to be honest. Number one was our budget, the transfer budget we had available. We weren't going to spend big on a new striker. And I think that's a twofold thing with our budget. I don't think it's controversial or untrue to say that Steve Lansdown, our owner, is looking to sell the football club. He said that back in March or April on a BBC Sport interview. He's looking to sell the football club. So I don't think he's going to be chucking loads of money at buying a striker this summer. And also, last summer, we bought 2 centre forwards. We bought Sinclair Armstrong and Fally Mayulu. I think together they were around 5 million, which is probably the exact kind of money you need to bring in a centre forward of sort of Emil Rees standard this summer. It is what it is. We just didn't have the money. So we were looking at Jacob Brown. Unfortunately, he failed a medical, and we obviously didn't get one in, which is, for me, a disappointment. Emil Rees is fantastic, but I don't think you can hang your hat on him for 46 games. I just don't think you can expect any championship player. Obviously, we got Jason Knight, but I think he's just he's a phenomenal athlete, isn't he? At some point, Emil Rees is going to get a knock or an injury that's going to keep him out for 2 or 3 games. I'm almost sure of it. Or he's just going to need a rest in general. And I don't think we have, amongst the squad, enough backup. And for me, 2 positions we needed, I said it already, a left wing back or left-sided defender and a striker. We got Neto Borges, who I'm happy with. We needed a striker, and unfortunately it didn't come off. Going back to a positive though, we kept a couple of players that I'm really happy with. Zach Viner, who was subject to interest from both Derby and Wrexham, and I saw in some reports Birmingham as well, but I'm not too sure about that one. I understand Wrexham bid up to 5 million for him, and we said no. So he's still at the club for this season at least. We'll get on to how long he's got left on his contract. And obviously Jason Knight as well. Jason Knight, our captain, played every minute of every game pretty much last season. Done the same this season. Probably our most important player, isn't he? Let's be honest. And I don't know if by keeping Jason Knight, if we can credit our club for that, or whether he just wasn't subject to many offers. Like, I think if Jason Knight were to leave Bristol City, I'm putting myself in Jason Knight's shoes, he would leave for a club that are probably guaranteed, almost guaranteed to get promoted from the Championship, or one of the promoted teams already. So like a Burnley, a Leeds, that sort. But it didn't happen, did it? There was some interest, I believe, from Everton, but obviously that didn't come off. So yeah, I'm very happy. And I think one of the things about this window, which should be celebrated, along with the great players that we've bought, is the players we've managed to keep. Now, I mentioned when talking about Jacob Brown and the fact we didn't sign a forward, I think that was almost contingent on the fact we were unable to sell some of our, I wouldn't say necessarily all of these 4 are like absolute dead wood, but players that would probably, Bristol City were wanting to get rid of this summer. Fally Mayulu is probably the one of these 4 that, you're not too upset that he's sticking around based on the performances that we've seen. But Sinclair Armstrong, Harry Cornick and Hayden Roberts, if the right offer or a offer came in this summer, I think we would have entertained it. I understand there was a bit of loan interest in Sinclair Armstrong and potentially a permanent deal in the offings from Turkey. But yeah, that didn't happen. Harry Cornick, I'll be honest, I think he doesn't want to leave Bristol City. He's got a year left, as I understand it. He's pretty settled in the city. I understand he's got a young family. He's quite happy just sitting at the club, getting the odd minute, and he seems like he works hard in training, to be fair, and he's a good person to have around. Obviously got some minutes against Hull, but I think, if someone offered us some money for Harry Cornick, we wouldn't say no. And Hayden Roberts, I think, is the most interesting one. I'm really surprised he didn't get a move. I don't think he's good enough for Bristol City, but I definitely think he's a very respectable League One player. And I'm really surprised that a League One team didn't come in for him. I don't really know what happened there, but he's still here. And we've actually signed a player to play above him as well, Neto Borges. So he's going to stick around and just not play, basically. And then Fally, I don't think there was much interest in him either. Is what it is with him. I'm actually not too upset to have him around because he has shown glimpses this season. But yeah, I think it's a failure that we didn't sell at least one of these players in the window. 3 players did leave the football club though, not necessarily permanently. Sam Bell's gone out on loan to Wickham. Knight LaBelle and Murphy have both gone out on loan to Swindon. I wish Sam Bell the best, really. I'm not entirely sure he comes back to Bristol City, to be honest. But he scored on his debut for Wickham, which was great to see. His dad was in the stands as well. I've got no ill will towards Sam Bell because he looks like a player that works hard, trains hard, and acts like a professional. He's probably just not good enough to cut it at the Championship as things stand. But if he does well at Wickham, who knows? And he's certainly got off to a good start. And I think it's fair that Knight, LaBelle and Murphy have gone off on loan just to get minutes in game time. They've gone to Swindon, so hopefully Ian Holloway gives them some good minutes there. But I don't really have too much more to say about these three. Two young players out on loan, and Sam Bell, who we probably would have liked to get rid of for a fee. I think the best we could do was a loan to Wickham. He's only got a year left, so whether he plays for the football club actually, again, we'll wait and see. And then finally, one of the key talking points for me, it's not necessarily a transfer window thing. We didn't sell these players, first of all, but we've got, well, Max O'Leary's on this list as well. But these are the three I really wanted to focus on. These three players have 1 year left on their contract, and I'm really worried that they won't re-sign. As I understand it, Mark Sykes is on one of the lower wages of like our starting players at the club. So I think would you re-sign in that position? I'm not sure. Mehmeti and Viner, I think Viner in particular, subject to a 5 million bid this summer, I don't think he's necessarily paid. He's one of our highest paid players, but I don't think he's necessarily paid like a 5 million championship player. So whether or not we'll offer him a competitive enough salary to stay, I'm sure we'll go into negotiations with him. But whether we offer him, something like Wrexham or Birmingham would in the summer, and obviously they'd get a signing on fee as well, or he'd get a signing on fee. Yeah. He's played, obviously, really well this season. Good minutes for Struber. Yeah, worried about him not signing. And I'm worried about Mehmeti as well. I said this summer that I could take it or leave it with Mehmeti. If the right offer came in, I'd take it. And to be honest, if the right offer came in for any of these players and they got a year left on their deal, earlier in the summer, you'd probably take it. A right offer being, maybe 5 million, maybe more for Viner, Anis. I mean, you write your own figures down, but you'd probably take a decent bid for all of these because, anyone's for sale at the right price. But Mehmeti's been fantastic this year, right? He has been really good in my opinion. And that's proven by the minutes, I think, that Gerhard Struber has trusted him with, and obviously the goals and assists that he's got. But he's got a year left too. And I would imagine, I don't know any information on this, but given that he was our top scorer last season and Manning started sort of leaving him out from, was it sort of February, March onwards? I think that upset the apple cart a little bit and prevented him from signing a new deal. So yeah, all three of these players, I think, they're amongst the best players in our squad. They're all on a year left, and I'm worried about them signing. And I think if all three of these players left our squad, you're looking at sort of, I think, nearly 10 million to sort of replace their quality. I think that would be a bit disastrous for our football club. All right, well, that's the end of the video. This is the second time I've recorded this. I recorded it with two microphones plugged in at first. So you were hearing things out of this one, and then my webcam, which also has a microphone. It was a nightmare. I've had to do this twice now, so hopefully this all sounds good. I think I might give up, to be honest, if it doesn't work again. If you enjoyed it, please leave me a like rating. And the final thing I ask, rate the transfer window out of 10 in the comment section. Let me know what you think, what we did well, what we didn't do well, and rate it out of 10. For me, I'm going to give it a 7, I think. The players we brought in are good, but I wanted a striker and I wanted us to get rid of some players as well. So that would be my thoughts. A pretty standard 7. We've definitely improved the squad, but I think we could have done more. So yeah, if you enjoyed it, like I said, leave a like rating, subscribe to the Robin's Nest channel. Plenty more content coming your way about Bristol City for the rest of the season. And yeah, thank you very much for watching.